So we were just talking about the sales sheet just now for Unforgiven.
Mm-hmm.
Sure were.
You wanna recap that off the air stuff?
Oh,
Yeah,
sure,
go back 30
sure.
seconds and try it again.
Now that you've got this posted up here on Facebook and other social media where people can chime in with any questions they have, if you're fast enough, we have a list of the superstars that were in the set. They've got Batista, Captain Charisma, which ended up for some sort of legal reason. I think there was a challenge from another guy who was out there calling himself Captain Charisma.
Yeah, there was an indie wrestler named Captain Charisma who was fighting with the name.
So they ended up changing it to Leader of the Population. We also have Christy, Hollywood the Immortal. Well, another name change there.
That's a good name change.
Rowdy Roddy Piper, insert eye roll here. And
we'll get there.
Long.
We'll get there.
Sure. And Teddy Long. And that's all well and good. But then you look at the superstars that were in the boosters, Basham Brothers. Well, no, they became M&M after they broke up or were released. I don't remember the timing there. Chavo Guerrero, he ended up getting kicked to the next set, and we got the Hura Friends instead. Heidenreich, well, that's right. And then we have Muhammad Hassan, which I had forgot he was actually planned for the set and got pulled, but he ended up becoming Snitsky.
Good old Stinky. Stinky. Anything off the top of your guys' head before we start going to each starter deck and booster superstars? Anything that was interesting about this release that came out?
I mean, there are a ton of bomb power cards in there across a lot of rarities, but I think just to marquee the set, to billboard it, this is a set where Revolution of the Mind came out, just to give everybody perspective on that. And it didn't really catch on in this set because we weren't at the point yet where the upsides outweighed the downsides, because Revolution of the Mind is great at pulling your deck's reversal base into a smaller number of cards while still keeping the same magnitude, but deck space wasn't tight enough where that was an issue. So this is where it came out, but it didn't get popular until No Way Out, Great American Bash, that time frame, at least where I was.
I would tend to agree with that. Overall, the set, there's some notes in the playtesting documents that Baron specifically said players were starting to feel like they were getting a little too many mechanics because they got Chain and Heat from Vengeance. Yeah, I gotta make sure I got the right V in there. Vengeance. Then we rolled into Armageddon where we got Volley, which was a bit complex.
Yeah, Volley was really like the weight of 2 or 3 mechanics in one.
It was. And then we got the throwback mechanics. So the feedback was kind of like, okay, that's great, but can we maybe slow down on whole new mechanics? Now, we did get the precision moves that didn't really have a mechanic. They just followed the theme. And I remember getting consulted even before I got to see the playtest stuff on the best way to word that. And just having it work when played worked out better than some wacky wording they had before.
Right. We want to avoid a situation like the OG blindsides where they were built to just be like, hey, you can play these from ringside, but they did it in such a bizarre and arcane way that it opened up a ton of abuse later on. Yeah. And by later on, I mean immediately. Immediately when the blindsides came out, Victoria was like, hey, toys.
Yeah. So they retconned that pretty well with Survivor Series 3 and just changed that to most recent printing as opposed to throwback to just fix it the way they wanted it to work.
Also, we should note that this is this set that immediately followed SS3.
Yes.
So this is the first expansion after the big Survivor Series 3 splash.
And there's 2 ways to look at this historically. One that is kind of irrelevant now, but at the time, we were still very much in the Afterburn direction as much as we were in All Access. So we're rolling out of the base card set we have from Armageddon, along with the little toys in the Lethal Library. And all of the throwbacks and restructuring that Survivor Series 3 brought out, with everybody's cards getting tuned up with throwbacks, or these cards getting a little better with this throwback version. So now when you have this restricted environment to try to play in that saves you having to chase down It's Showtime or Premier SmackDown or Rules Are Meant to Be Broken or all these other older cards, it really brought up the question, okay, well, we've got this so far, what's next? And Unforgiven opened the door to that by not just having a bunch of throwbacks, which gated in all of the original versions of those cards, but also added some bonuses for certain people. So like the standing drop kick was a nice one for Lita to go fetch, and it was a pretty strong card, and definitely better than the limited 05 that was the original version.
Yeah.
There were little, you mentioned the bomb power slams. There was a lot of that. And I figured the A-Train player would definitely comment on that. But
no
there was,
comment.
Right. But there was cute little tricks like sit-out powerbomb throwback. It's a 7-10, but you can bury your hand to make it a 0-10, which doesn't sound great unless your name is Bubba Ray Dudley and you just drew half your deck. I actually had a deck where I had That's Broken and a couple other cards that you could put things under. And the whole idea was draw a massive hand, tuck the cards you want, and then bury it with sit-out powerbomb. It was kind of hit and miss, but it was a fun thing to play with.
Yes. Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead. I'm just kind of trying to respond to certain things that's going on here from different platforms.
Don't worry about it.
That's okay. I was going to let you chime in, but if you're busy, I'll just keep talking.
No. I'm good.
Another thing we got was with the volley trait. I did mention this in Armageddon. The volley started off as sort of a mid to late game type mechanic, but it lacked in the opening stages. Super punch, okay, there were some little tricks you could do there, but you really needed a way to get to the good volley cards. Now we had a good set of opening tools to use with a chalky kick and back fist, which were reduced to 0 when you started. And then once you got 4 fortitude, you had kidney punch, which you could just keep, if you wanted to pay the cost, you could keep bringing that back and pushing that through to get up to the, I don't remember if Cold Cock was in the original.
Cold Cock was in Armageddon, yeah.
Okay. So you get to the Cold Cock and higher end volley cards.
It's one of my favorite volley cards, Cold Cock. Love that card.
You also see a lot of cards in this set that just become staples for forever and ever. This is a set where the old Switcheroo came out, which is a pre-match card that really defined pre-match construction for a long time. It was this era, It's All About the Game. But unlike It's All About the Game, it didn't just completely fuck the pre-match face.
No, but
think about Switcheroo, but it didn't just blow up the whole thing like a fucking atomic bomb.
Yeah, it just unfortunately added another layer of corruption, which is great if you like corruption. But as I talked about before, the problem with corruption is it works even when it doesn't, because you're having to spend that spot in your deck, in your backlash deck, to pack the counters for these sorts of cards. And it wasn't really that we saw a hard counter for it until Great American Bash, I think, when we got Find Out How to Fight from Finley.
Yes.
Which could say, okay, no switcheroo. It really felt like that set, just, we're not talking about that set, but that set did a good job of finally saying, okay, let's give you guys some answers for all this pre-mat corruption, because we had a no-show that could get around old school. We had Finley, who could deal with switcheroo and give you a chance to actually, and by then we had Champ is Here also to negate some of the old school US title pre-match reduction. So kind of that's
we talked more about that in the Great
American
American Bash video, which you can find on the VelaCards YouTube page.
Look at you promoting. Yeah. All right, let's hit the decks here. It's like that.
Sure.
Hit the decks. We'll start off with Batista.
Good old Dave. He was the promo superstar for this set, and that's why he's at a 3 superstar value, because that's what he was when the promo was printed. And then he kept going up. His star was on the rise, and he felt more like a 4. So that's why that +1 superstar value is on the Destroyer to bring him up to a 4.
Interesting.
After we had to tweak his, it's one of the few times they've actually changed something in a promo, but they had to tweak that because there was some confusion when they originally said your opponent's reversals are D0. People said, well, if fortitude is based on what the damage is, doesn't that mean your opponent's reversals in the ring don't count for fortitude? Which wasn't true, but they just wanted to clarify that, so they changed the wording.
It was a good clarification.
To your opponent's reversals deal no damage, or something to that effect.
That is exactly what is on the card.
Oh, hi, yeah.
There we go.
That guy right there.
Yeah. Trying to be a little more interactive here.
Plus, we got the fun little graphic where somebody called the original version Trogdor because he only had the one beefy arm.
I love that.
Young kids won't get that. It's before their time. Google it. That's all I can tell you.
Google it.
Homestarrunner.com. Go have a blast.
But he had some pretty good help coming in because even though actions aren't really his thing, he got the 2 from Evolution.
Yeah,
as well
pay
as
late
the,
and made, and if you want to play, you got to pay.
Yeah.
and that reversal. It wasn't great, but it was pretty good. It gave him, I think, a recur 4 if once he reverses something with it.
Yep. And
can't
it
recall.
hits non-trademarks. It's called Nothing Ever Stays the Same.
That's it. Thank you.
Because all the Evolution card titles were just lines from the song.
Yeah, that's right.
Pretty much. The other thing he got that didn't have anything to do with his set, usually Tony says, well, what was his best card?
Yep.
His best card wasn't in his set, in my opinion. His best card was in Survivor Series 3 when they made the Spinebuster throwback to reverse grapples and submissions. So, hi, Taz. Welcome to death.
Well, I mean, Taz hated Batista even with regular
Hello,
Spinebusters
A-Train.
because
Let's go.
it's more like, hey, Kurt Angle, fuck you.
Yeah.
Ouch. We'll move on here. We'll go to next up. What we have over here, we have the lovely Christy.
Oh, Christy. She's such an interesting deck. And by interesting, I mean it's usually going to crash and burn, but it'll be kind of fun along the way. Her maneuver restriction is insanely restrictive. You can't pack maneuvers of 3D or greater. Okay, great. How the hell do I get Fortitude? This is a set where Girly Slap and Girly Grab came out, so you had some options on that front. But no 3Ds means you don't get panics. So you're just throwing those straight up and hoping. She has a very strong recursion ability, but again, staying alive isn't great if you can't actually do anything to your opponent when you're doing it.
Well, she got some massive help in virtual.
She sure did, and she needed it.
A little too strong in some respects.
She was definitely one that wanted to shoot actions.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
That was a great help to help her get, to help any of the action decks with those restrictions like Tori to be able to get something going. I felt
she was also very abusive in the all access format from Revolution cards too, because you take all those antics.
Oh yeah. I think part of her design was almost like a Nydia for the Afterburn environment.
Yeah,
a deck that wanted to play a lot of actions but get something back for it, and just sort of outlast the opponent. Probably a lot of sponging going on there. I think I played her once or twice, but I don't even remember what it was. It was more of a checking.
You were
box.
playing a maneuverless Christie.
I think so.
That's how I built. That's how I built my Christie deck in all access. I built completely maneuver. No maneuvers, maneuverless.
Right. The only maneuver you throw in there is Christie's Twist that you never intended to play as a maneuver.
I don't even think I even packed that either.
Really? Wow.
I really don't think I packed it. I think it was the weakest of her cards. So I was like, why would I want to have it?
I don't know about that being the weakest of her cards. Redheaded Sparkplug isn't that great.
It's good if you hit it, but it's just kind of there.
Yeah.
Get some reversals. You probably want them in your deck to sponge rather than putting them in your hand.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that troubled her was she missed a key card in this environment, which was really a meta changer, and that's the Sidewalk Slam throwback.
Sure is.
Oh, yeah.
They started that off with like a 0-4 high-risk reversal, and through the process of playtesting, it became, well, there's a lot of foreign objects, so let's have it reverse foreign objects. And then they dropped the high risk because Lift to Boot was in the set, and they felt like that was enough. So then it became, well, let's stop irreversible setups. And I think they just said, well, what if it stops irreversibles? So by the time I got into playtesting, we had this 0-3 reverse and a irreversible, and that was immediately a 2 to 3 card per deck pack.
I mean, it's still a staple today, honestly.
Oh, it is. Absolutely.
The only time it's not a staple, I think, is for people who choose to run some of the virtual alternatives that do similar things but are meant to be packed when you're not packing Sidewalk Slam.
Or if you're Funaki, because, fuck Funaki.
Poor guy.
Poor guy. I was going to say the same thing. Poor guy. Super nice guy. He gets a lot of shit. Let's move along here, guys. Let's go to good old leader.
Oh, the leader of the
Captain Charisma. Wait, no, he's not. They toyed with CLB briefly, and then I guess
I
they
remember
felt like
that.
that was no, I don't want to call him creepy little bastard.
Yeah,
so
that's not a great idea.
Let's and they came with leader of the population to match leader of the Edge Army. So whatever.
I
mean, he's certainly an interesting deck. He's got a lot of moving parts, and I think that's a good thing because when Leader of the Edge Army came out, he was just kind of there. He's a meta superstar against actions. Okay. Leader of the Population is more proactive. He blows up your opponent's ring and also blows up his own ring. But because he's deciding what moves in both cases, he can be more situational about it and move things that he just doesn't care about from his own ring. And that opened up a lot of cool interactions later, and also Backfire. We should probably talk about Backfire.
Yeah.
Just looping backfires with Population became the dominant mechanic with him, and it was very uninteractive.
What kind of help did he end up getting in virtual? I can't remember.
Not that much.
Not much.
Because we really kind of relied on the sense of, well, he's very strong, and because he has that ring destruction, we didn't give him a whole lot. I think we gave him...
It was a backstage card, wasn't it?
Well, Christian got the backstage card that he can also use some of. It was like you get A and B, and then if you're Christian, you get C and D.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. But the Leader of the Population card was just kind of an
I'll make it an instant classic, something like that.
Yeah. And it lets you remove like higher damage cards or something like that, but at a penalty.
Yeah.
It was just some sort of a trade-off. So we basically said, okay, rather than giving him a push, we'll just give him you get X, but you lose Y kind of situation. Trade-off.
Gotcha. Now we go to the fun one. Let's take a fun one here.
Oh, boy.
I was waiting for it to show up on your screens.
As soon as you said fun one, I knew where you were going. So I remember reading a playtest document from this era that said that Piper was just another meta superstar like Highlight of the Night and Leader of the Edge Army. And that's true in a sense, except that the things that Piper hates on is, everything.
This is so true.
The concept was, well, he'll be sort of a silver bullet for those decks that are trying to rely on cannot be reversed, it can only be reversed type cards, which is ironic because then they put German Suplex, which became a staple, into this set. So here's this great thing you can use to help you make sure you get Fortitude, and here's this guy who will kill you dead for using it. So we get Piper, and we complained about him a lot in playtesting, and Baron's response was, it's fine. No, it's fine the way he is. Part of the problem also is that Piper's Pit would remove cards from the game when they were reversed.
And because of the timing on that, there's nothing you can do about it.
So he stops it and gets rid of it so you can't throw it again, and he just chews through your deck. There was a guy in Dallas who was terrorizing tournaments with a 60 reversal card Piper deck, and he would just do nothing. Hit me. Nope. Oh, is that a grapple? Spinebuster. Oh, is that a submission? Indian Deathlock. And he would just damage reversal people to death and just sit there. And it was very uninteractive. And unfortunately, it really had a bad effect on the game.
Piper was definitely the meta warping deck of this set, and honestly for the rest of
for going forward completely.
Yeah.
He became one of the big three. The complaints about people who still play Classic is, okay, so who won your tournament? Andre, Kennedy, or Piper?
Exactly. And it amazes me that people are okay with that to this day. Some are like, well, that's what I like. Where's the fun?
Some people just really like being able to predict how a tournament goes.
I guess.
They get comfortable with the meta and they don't want to change it.
Yep. Which is, But that was
it is what it is.
It is what it is. It's how it is through the life of the games like that. Every time something new was introduced, people would bitch about it. Then you'd learn it. Then they would adapt. Then they would get something that was great for them. Then something else new would come out and they bitch. Well, I just learned this.
Yeah.
I don't get it. Trust me. I was kind of one of those people when Revolution first came out. I didn't really understand and want to play it, but then I really loved it.
Then you sat down and played it.
I sat down and played it, and I really loved it, especially for someone like me who came in so late in the game.
Yep.
I was comfortable playing classic stuff. I still, from day one, hated All Access, but I was comfortable playing classic stuff. But when Revolution came out, that kind of like, okay, I feel like I came in from the ground floor now. I can actually kind of build myself up and everything. But I hated playing any classics and people bring in these goddamn, Piper decks or Andre decks or Kennedy decks. I even hated Eugene decks. I hated those. Just absolutely hated him.
Yeah, Eugene was the next tier down, where he loses to the big three, but he can also make everybody else's life a living hell.
Yeah, well.
Part of the problem with Piper, though, was you mentioned, okay, here's some meta shift. We don't like it. We complain, but we adapt to it. There wasn't really a way to adapt to Piper.
No.
Right. There are some things you can throw in that are better if you're fighting against Piper. Like, you throw Bootlace in your deck. Yeah, Piper blanks it, which means you're not using Bootlace as a 4 damage strike that can't be reversed from hand. But he also blanks it everywhere, so now it's a 4 damage action.
Which is
it's
nice,
goofy,
but
and
at the same time, people
it gets
would
the
say,
job
well,
done, but it's silly.
Sure. And people would say, well, if you're using stuff without all that reversed, then his ability doesn't work. Right.
Well, then
but his reversals
because...
do.
Yes.
And we gave him Jimmy. We gave him those 2 new, which helps sell more decks, the non-superstar specific legend starter cards. You got Cowboy
In My
Bob
Day
and,
Maneuver was a maneuver in Cowboy Bob, which are both reversals.
Yeah.
And Cowboy Bob just 5 damage to boot.
And he had no restrictions, so he could pack anything else he wanted. He could pack Revolution of the Mind. He could pack, whatever, and still do it. I think if there had been a downside to Piper, that might have been a little more balancing. Okay, you get all this, but you can't have this.
Or
like
if his ability said, like, when your opponent plays a maneuver with reverse in the text, you can overturn 4 cards and blank it.
Yes, if there was a cost to it, that might have been more balanced. But just being able to out of hand stop everything at no downside just was too much for the environment. And there was no real response to it. About all you could do was play one of those few superstars who had the ability to to blank his ability. But that was an extremely limited card pool.
Because if you wanted to try and play a card that blanked his ability, Piper's Pit blew it up.
Yeah. It's reversed and it's removed from the game. Good luck. Have a nice day.
Or if you play a pre-match card that can switch your blank his ability like White Wedding, Piper's Pit blows it up.
Yeah.
That sounds like fun. Can't wait. I want to play again now. Not. All right. That was just a bad deck all the way around. So let's go back to let's go to this one now instead.
Let us cleanse our palates of this.
There we go. Hollywood the Immortal. I mean, the Immortal one.
That was a good name change, by the way, because Hollywood the Immortal would have been confusing for a lot of people.
Yeah. As it was, he was a bit confusing when he came out because they were launching Afterburn, and they said only cards from after are legal. And now here's a Hulk Hogan remake. People went, wait, so we don't get his Hulk Hogan cards? So we had to wait to the next set that they threw everything back, and then he got the full complement. So he sort of, whereas Batista arrived with some extra luggage to help him out, Hogan's luggage was still in transit and waited a couple more months to show up. So personally, I was never that big on him. I built him once just to, check the box. I tried to build everybody at least once. Mm-hmm. And he was basically, he would get Jimmy first because he had the highest superstar value.
Right. He's a 9/7, so he's getting everything he wants.
And for some weird reason, they let you boost his superstar value at the cost of your hand, which really only mattered for Premier, I guess, or if you wanted to out superstar value a guy who had another deck, who had belts, I mean. But you could just, pack Showtime for that. I never understood.
Not an Afterburn, sir.
But, not an Afterburn, yes. But I just never got what that was for.
And his ability was kind of awkward because it sounds like a nice, when you play a reversal card, you discard a card. When your opponent plays a reversal card, you draw a card. That seems fair, right?
And he gets no sell.
Yeah, he gets no sell. But, discarding 3 to play no sell, ow.
Right.
And
if they had said, you can pack no sell, but you don't discard for it, with his ability, that might have felt a little more even, but he didn't get that. So
yeah, and there are some cute tricks you could play with it, but they were extremely techy, and you kind of had to know the rules back and forth to go with it. Like if you played a reversal card that required you to discard cards, or discard specific cards, like this is going nowhere fast, where you have to discard 2 non-hybrid reversal cards. You discard 1 for his ability, and then you say, okay, I discarded the other one. I don't have any more. And because the hand is a private knowledge zone, your opponent has no way of checking that. So he just has to take your word for it, which was honestly dumb. But
Yeah.
That's the way the rules were built.
And he got punished, unfortunately, for using another game changer. Unforgiven really upped the power creep. I'm going to kind of derail here. But
No, that's absolutely true.
part of the problem is we had Armageddon. We had Armageddon. We had Survivor Series 3. So we kind of had a foundation for what to expect in Afterburn. Unforgiven jacked the power creep up, not just with Piper and a couple of the other superstars you could argue for, but it increased what was going on by introducing Revolution of the Mind, introducing Sidewalk Slam.
Yeah.
German Suplex became a staple. We got the old switcheroo to go with the pre-match corruption. And the other card we didn't mention is restricted use in this area.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Amusingly, that's one that was sort of a replacement card. There were several premium rares that were planned for superstars that got cut very late. So they threw in some ideas for filler cards that could also fill those premium rare slots on the sheet. Well, one of them was Girly Grab, as you mentioned, and restricted use was another. They just basically wanted to have a one-shot deal where somebody could ignore all of the
it's a get out of jail free card, and it's a very effective get out of jail free card. But when you're Immortal 1, you discard one card to even attempt it.
Yeah,
and then you can go on to play reversal cards by discarding more cards.
But it did help because he could restricted use something and then play Jimmy, or
no, you can't
Jimmy.
Activate Jimmy. You can only play reversal cards. Restricted use in this area says you can play reversal cards. It does not say you can respond.
Yeah, it's been a long time. I've slept since then. So.
I remember this coming up in several tournaments, so I remember this ruling. Hey, it's almost like I'm a rules guy.
It's almost like you are. There might be a position open. No, it's been filled. Sorry.
No. Yeah. That's definitely been filled.
It's been filled. So let's see who we got next here.
One thing to note that while you couldn't play restricted use and then activate Jimmy, you sure as fuck could activate Feathered Boa and then use Jimmy.
Yes.
Feathered Boa is just, hey, that card, it's blank now.
Nice.
That was a little more balanced than Piper because it had just that one-shot effect. You know what?
Correct.
Let's get it in, use it. That's fun.
Here's our last starter
we're back
deck
to No Funville.
Yep.
He was rough, but I think having the smaller deck kind of balanced him out. If he had the room to pack all the reversals he wants like a regular deck, that ability to go fetch reversals would have just been too much, I think. But he felt a little more balanced. The one thing that was bad was he, in my opinion, made a better A-Train deck than A-Train.
I disagree.
I know you do.
But I remember you and I were workshopping that. We called it Night Train because we're dorks. And the 50-card arsenal was really limiting in trying to build out that structure. But if you could squeeze everything in to make it work, having those two search abilities going off in tandem was really strong.
More so if you could arrange your pre-match to hit Haterade and just really wreck their hand. Then you roll through throw yourself a band from ringside. Again, we're not talking Afterburn here, but if you can get Premier Smackdown in some fashion, A-Train was
band
too
from
low
ringside
for
was an Afterburn. It was reprinted in SS3.
Yeah, no, I was thinking about Premier Smackdown to raise the hand, but no, that's not part of this particular puzzle. Banned from ringside, so every move you throw, if you miss, it just goes back underneath. Mm-hmm. So you can get away with using fewer maneuvers. And then if you're using like the technical slams, then you're just, that also came later, come to think of it.
The next set, so you're fine.
Yeah, so you could throw a technical slam, it goes back underneath, you can fetch it again, or you hit it and you just go grab another technical slam, or technical power bomb one time. I don't remember the sequencing. But he had a lot of options, especially as you mentioned, we got all those throwbacks of slam bomb power. So he had more to play with that build. But he also got what did he get? The Your Freaking Hero. They called it Kurt Angle, but I think it was
it was Your Freaking Hero and John Cena.
Yep.
Yeah. So he had all the possibilities of the SmackDown, and you could just go with good old Shane if you wanted. That would get you somewhere.
But in terms of Teddy himself, he has a very kind of sit back and come at me ability where he just goes and fetches a reversal. Reverses what you do. goes and fetches another reversal, reverses what you do. And his cards don't really do a lot to break him out of that, mostly because they're just not good.
I think he was one of those where they designed a strong ability, so they had his support cards just kind of situational or just limited.
Yeah. And I mean, it would have been crazy if he had that ability and also a bunch of bomb-ass superstar specifics, but it just meant that his superstar specifics didn't get played.
Yeah, I think probably his strongest was Haterade, because if you got it, you were just off to the races. You killed 3 cards out of your opponent's hand.
Although, I agree that Haterade is super strong, but Ha Ha Hala is kind of a sleeper hit that it's really easy to hit. It's got an aggressive fortitude curve, and when you land it, your opponent puts 5 cards from his hand at the bottom of his deck.
Especially if you hit Haterade and then hit that, you're wrecking it. You pretty much.
There was also another card that was a standout in Eugene.
Yeah.
Yep, it sure was. Yep. Fucking Eugene. Goddamn it. It's just an annoying person.
I threw that in just for you, pal.
They were actually going to put Always Bet on Black as part of his set, but they decided to put an Enforcer in there, which helps sell more decks.
Mm-hmm.
And so we just got that card in the next set instead.
Interesting. That is all the starter decks
from
this set. What we have next coming up.
Thematic to Teddy Long before we move on. I just found this amusing that the original title of This Is Just the Beginning was Let Me Holla At Ya, Playa.
That's great.
That would have been so great for a Teddy deck. Just keep putting, let me holla at you, play. Let me holla at you. Let me holla at you. Okay.
That's annoying, actually.
A little bit, yeah.
We have, it looks like 4 booster superstars.
Correct.
And this would be the first one we'll talk about here.
Oh, Big Johnny.
Yeah.
Super nice guy, by the way. I remember getting in Anaheim, they had a super show there at that time where they actually had they're doing that trade, drafting from different shows kind of thing. So everybody was there. I mean, The Rock was there, Stone Cold was there, Taker. I mean, they were all there. And I remember sitting in the backstage areas like that, and down the ramp behind, at the pond when that was a Honda Center. And sitting there, and they had some bleachers that you would find inside, sitting on the outside. And we had just had, I think it was Katrina had hit for that time. And John had a place there in New Orleans area where he was at. So he was constantly sitting there, and he was just like so worried, but still very gracious and kind. And it was just a down to earth, really kind guy to talk to. It's like that. I was kind of surprised by how nice he was.
Yeah, I always got the sense that he was just a super chill, super nice guy who played a maniac on TV.
Yes, and he did it very well.
Yeah.
So.
And then they tried to change that in a different direction where he was suddenly looking for friends.
Yes. Yes.
That was certainly an approach. I'm not sure that it was effective, but it was an approach.
Yeah, well, it's a part of his...
raw deal. He was extremely one-dimensional in that you're probably playing foreign objects and punches, which means you're probably just going to throw strikes at your opponent until he goes home. And he got a good payoff for actually hitting those maneuvers because look at your opponent's hand, pick a card, and he puts it on the bottom of his arsenal. Yeah, sure, sign me up. But by the time you've already busted through with your foreign objects or punches, they probably can't stop you from their hand anyway. So it's a win-more situation.
The one good toy he did get help with that. Well, actually, his best card doesn't even have his logo, and that was Kidney Punch.
Yes.
100%. Because that went for a 4/8, so his disaster piece makes it 0/8, and he can go get one, or he can just pick it up from his ringside with its own text and just keep spamming that until he gets it through.
And his search ability is pretty expensive because it's 2 for 1, so if he keeps that up, his hand just starts collapsing in on itself. So being able to grab a card from ringside to get that engine going is really nice without having to rely on something like Chicago Street Fight.
Right. With its own cost.
Interesting.
Amusingly, this ability and design was meant for Snitsky. And
really?
Then they pulled Snitsky out, and I guess that they felt like they weren't going to use him, so they put in Heidenreich with the same ability, and then later on brought Snitsky back with the heat ability. And I remember in playtesting actually looking at both of them, and I said, here's a crazy idea, but what if we switch their abilities? which I didn't know at the time was actually how they were initially designed. But I said that the poems, the disaster piece, sounded like something that would generate heat, and the baby carriage would be something you could bring weapons down to the ring in for as foreign objects. So, and Baron went, no, we're not going to do that. Okay.
Who doesn't bring back? Who's wheezing over there? So I got some.
Oh, that's background noise. Don't worry about it.
Gotcha. just don't worry about it.
It's an exercise bike. It's old.
Gotcha. Speaking of good old Snitsky Stinky.
Man, does Snitsky owe you trance or something? You just keep nailing him.
It just smells bad, apparently.
It was just so that when we played, because I used to play him all the time. I liked his ability, so yeah, it was a straightforward ability, right?
Yeah, it is a very straightforward ability.
And very easy to build around, and I just had a lot of fun with it. But we used to always just call him Stinky. So we always had different nicknames for people, even if, so just call him Stinky. That's all I call it. But good old Snitsky, okay. He was, matter of fact, he was recently on an episode of Where Are They Now on WWE.
Huh. I tried him once, I think, and didn't really get it. I just tried to build a basic heat deck that had recursion.
Yep.
But then I got rolled by this guy who would Dan Posey from Texas.
Mm-hmm.
He was my kryptonite because he would come up with the weirdest stuff, and he played these oddball superstars, and I'd think, playing that guy, and every time I'd fall for it. I'd think, okay, this is going to be easy, but he'd have some strange tech or something or crazy idea, and then I'd sit there at the end of the game that I'd just lost and went,
what the hell just happened?
Yes, exactly.
What just happened?
So I remember having a match against Snitsky where I was Mr. Pay-Per-View. Mm-hmm. And of course, crash aggro. So I'm just smashing in. And I don't exactly recall what he did. He might have been using clutch leverage and dirty low blows or something, but he got into his 10 fortitude. And that's when I started realizing the power of the baby carriage, because he would just keep putting a card back. The cost of using the ace is shuffling a card back. So here he's sitting with his managers and keeps putting his managers back in the deck. And then even if I reverse it, he can discard 4 and put it back in his ring.
Yep.
And I didn't have any ring removal in that deck. So, he would just, okay, well, I built up my hand, and he's throwing his maneuvers from ringside once he got the 10 fortitude for heat. So he could build that hand and then just discard 4 to bring the carriage back. And I was not prepared to face a sponge deck like that. And pretty soon I'm looking at my hand going, what am I even going to throw at him? He's just got managers in the deck. He's got action reversals in the ringside with heat. Like, I'm screwed here. I have 60, 70 fortitude, and I'm screwed.
That's a good name for a card, by the way, I think. Power of the Baby Carriage. It's a good name right there. Great name.
That just sounds like he's beating people over the head with the baby carriage.
Why not?
But he doesn't look like much. None of his action cards, none of his arsenal cards jump out and say, oh, that's powerful. I mean, he's got a big strike reversal in his trademark finisher, but
he got some good. He got good support though in virtual.
Yep, we tried.
Yeah, that's why I love playing him in virtual too. I just again, straightforward deck, something easy to simple.
He's very approachable, very easy to get into. You're just going to play heat and not care about the fact that you're playing heat, and therefore you can't recover because you can. You're Snitsky.
Yep.
And I don't recall the timing on this, but I think Rochester was really good for him if you could get the venue with the low superstar value, because
Rochester was out.
Keep recurring with that, along with the baby carriage, and really drive that sponging home while continuously throwing maneuvers from your ringside.
He's fun. I enjoy playing. As much shit as I give him, he was still fun to play. So.
Yeah.
Moving
just
on.
not fun to look at.
It's very true.
The Basham brothers. I'm sorry, Eminem. They tried a couple of times to get the Bashams in. The Bashams were going to be in Armageddon, then they became the Phenom, and then they were going to be in this set, and they became Eminem, and then I think they just said, you know what, forget it.
Well, then the Bashams broke out, and
they were originally designed to have some JBL support. They were going to have one card, and then JBL was going to have one card to sort of round out the cabinet. But then they separated away from the cabinet, so they changed their pre-match card to something like, last time, I'm Doug, he's Danny. And then they just went away and they became M&M, and we got Molina in the game, which I'm all for.
Yes.
Best
Anything?
entrance in the business.
That's true. A rumor has it, and I guess she squashed the rumor. I guess yesterday they reported she signed back with WWE again, and then apparently today they're saying that she's saying that she didn't, which I thought that'd be an interesting dynamic there going back with her ex now with the company. And
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Gotta
So
say, I loved her in the NWA.
I sent off a message to my buddy who I booked her several times for the Wrestling Guy store, and I said, hey, I heard that Melina's coming back to WWE, and he's like sends me some sort of meme that has John out. I'm like, oh. And I go, yeah, she'd be interesting.
I guess that's just part of the dynamic they get used to.
Of course.
Working with when the romantic relationships build in the business, it's like, well, you can do that, but if it doesn't work out, you're going to have to be on the road with them, X amount of weeks per year. So,
and as common as these guys interact with each other like that, and that in romantic relationships, I mean, it's pretty common, I think. And then it's just like anything else. You don't like everybody you work with, so it's just how it is. Anything else that's cool about this superstar?
Oh yeah, we should probably talk about the actual superstar.
Yeah. I remember when this ability came out, and there was big schmoz over, can these guys pack backstage shenanigans as a pre-match card? And that was an argument for about a month until it eventually came out my way, where yes, they can, because it says you can pack this as a pre-match or a mid-match.
Mm-hmm.
So the game treats it as just one or just the other. If you're packing as a pre-match, doesn't see the mid-match.
And they were one of those, you could tell where there were certain ideas. Like, what if you got this, but you didn't get that, like test.
Yeah.
What if you don't really get pre-match, but you get all these extra mid-match? So they said, okay, let's go the other way. You get all these pre-match, but you don't get any mid-match. So it was an interesting variant of how to build decks, much like we talked about how Piper would have been better with the trade-off. This was definitely a trade-off superstar. Yeah. So you could use as many pre-matches as you want, and then also use the extras, not just for having a really wide toolbox in your approach before you started taking turns, but having those ability to use those to, much like Rene Dupree, be able to do some recycling and keep attacking.
Yeah, because it's non-unique, non-hybrid maneuver card or a Melina Naughty Manager from ringside straight to hand. So you're just grab and go.
And Melina, if I recall, was like 6 fortitude. Your next maneuver is Arsenal only. Yeah. So they can either get a move or they can get a card to help them get the move through.
Yep.
I enjoyed this deck. I thought it was a fun deck to build too.
It has enough moving parts that it's interesting, but it's not really overwhelming, and you have a ton of room in the pre-match to just toolbox out. So yeah, they were really cool. I remember building them and having fun with them.
And then the Melina Manager also had the same effect. It was an ace. You could get an Arsenal-only card. So they got some help moving through.
Oh, Melina was not Arsenal-only. She was just can't be reversed.
Oh, you're right. I read through too quickly.
That's okay.
But you had some of this reversal protection to try to get rolling. And they could also pick up a German suplex or whatever was handy to them, a clutch or a leverage to help get themselves up the fortitude tier.
And then once you were ready to kill your opponent, you could just pick up the snapshot by removing the rest of your ringside from the game and just spam that until it landed.
I was always skittish about using stuff like that, but it could be good. Similarly, when Elijah won the big Gen Con qualifier, one of his tricks was to remove his ringside from the game. It might have been more specific, but removed a certain amount of cards from his ringside to pick up Widow's Peak and play it once he was sure he had run his opponent out of reversals. And that's something that could similarly
that cost really hurts the first time, and then every time after that it's nothing. So once you start, you just don't stop.
But hopefully you're picking up those key cards you want to save with your ability.
Correct.
I haven't tried them, but I think they'd play a little better in virtual, not just for, obviously because we gave them cards in virtual, but because there's been some more pre-match, mid-match hybrids. Yeah. For example, they couldn't pack Cow, which was always one of the things that scared me about playing them. Like, if your opponent starts running away, there's nothing you can do except hope you have, an Upchalky kick in hand?
Right.
Okay, stop playing cards. Stop. But Cow was the great equalizer in that, to keep people from going too crazy early on, and they didn't have that crutch to rely on. In virtual, they could use turning everything upside down the same way, because that's a hybrid. No, wait, never mind.
Turning everything upside down is a mid-match action.
It's a hybrid, but not the kind that they want.
Right.
Okay, so bad example.
You could use, again, with this crap throwback.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, that stops a card that's already been played this turn, so it's more limited than Cow, but it is an option to just have a release valve.
Mm-hmm.
And our final one.
Her friends were super interesting because her friends felt like they were really built around a throwaway Hurricane Premium Rare, Gregory Helm's Ace Reporter, where your hand size is increased by your superstar value. So her friends are in here at 3-5. So they're probably already getting that. And then, hey, now you're an 8-5. That's a pretty aggressively powerful stat line, especially with a lot of good card support backing it up.
I think Bitter Rivals was one of the reasons I was hesitant to go that route with them, because you want to belt up and get the bigger hand, but then if somebody drops Bitter Rivals above you and you can't play belts, that's going to shut that off. But as you mentioned, they have a printed 5, so yeah.
If they dropped Bitter Rivals and then did product endorsements on you, you were fucked.
Yeah, I think that came in the next set, though. So at least for a while there, they could kind of do something. I remember having some skittishness about using the manager, but I don't remember what it was prior to product endorsements. But they were deceptive. Like, I didn't even realize how good they were at first. I thought, well, I don't know if it was just because there's a lot of text going on there. But
there is definitely a lot of text that you don't read because Stacy's at the front of the card.
Well.
Oh, there's text on that. Hold on, sorry.
There is.
That's been a long in-running joke between Creed and I. There's text on this card?
I just didn't know they had I thought it was a blank ability. My bad.
That was Ian Taylor's response to seeing the Straddle the Ropes throwback. Oh, this card has words on it. Oh.
or Golden Thong Award.
Well,
Tori wasn't really my type.
Okay, so let me remember. I always have to look at the ability and reread it to remember what they do. So you hit a move, and then you can discard a unique and go get another superstar specific card or diversion.
I like how unique card became one word.
Yes, a unique card.
A unique card.
Yeah, one of those pesky typos that slipped through and nobody saw. Well, unfortunately,
a unique card with the world elbow in the title.
Yes. Unfortunately, all we saw was the text spoilers.
Yeah.
So we wouldn't see the actual images until they were spoiled out, or we had the product in hand. One of the advantages of virtual, because we're able to distribute it digitally, we can have people look at it and go, "Did you mean unique card?" Oh, yes, thank you. I'll fix that before we release it.
It's the same thing. You know what I meant.
But I think their bigger part of their ability is the next part.
Yep.
When you successfully play a superstar specific card or diversion, put up to 2 cards from your ringside pile on the bottom of your arsenal. So when I played them, I was sort of more focused on the first part of their ability and sort of the 2-man power tripness of it all, with all those great throwbacks that came out of Survivor Series 3. So you got all the great Hurricane reversals. Stacy's got some stuff going on. They had a lot of red in their deck.
Yes, they really did.
And it wasn't just junk red. I mean, especially with the throwbacks, it was very useful stuff.
No, what's up with that is reversing the action at 4 Fortitude. In this era, that's pretty damn nice.
Yeah.
Her recycle is reverse any strike grapple submission at 7 and you draw a card.
Mm-hmm.
And you get to recover too because you played a superstar specific.
And if you're playing against somebody with a lower superstar value, you're going to likely get your venue option. So you can stash 3 in the armory.
Yep.
On top of whatever else you got. I think armory is the one I was hesitant to use, but it worked.
Because it's a venue?
Yeah, just because you run up against the Immortal One or one of those other high superstar evolution.
Mm-hmm.
And, oh, well, there went the venue. But they're good nonetheless. And I like I was saying, I focused on their aggro approach with having all of the reversals and such as, good stopping power once I got on the board. It wasn't until I started hearing what Anigoth was doing in sponging, especially with Greeting Citizen running.
Yeah, that was in Great American Bash.
Was it? Yeah. I remember it coming along later. But yeah, once that came out, coupled that with Boston, if you got it, and it actually was stronger than the Armory, because the Armory is great for offense or just having those reversals on tap, but being able to irreversibly play Greeting Citizens
and Greeting
keep
Citizen
sponging
goes and
back.
gets another copy of itself, and then you recover 2 on top of that.
Well, Greeting Citizens
Yeah.
came out in Unforgiven.
Really?
Yep.
Wasn't it set? Okay.
Yep. Card number 150 out of 198 came out of
Oh, yeah,
Unforgiven.
there it is.
Well, color me
Okay.
wrong.
That's all right. But they had some nice toys that almost made me forget about Hurricane altogether. I mean, Hurricane's ability isn't bad. It's just a one superstar trying to push his hand size up with the manager just never seemed that effective to me. I'd just rather go underrated. But these guys, obviously not underrated, but they also got the masks and capes that protected them from Break You, and then a card that was also in this set because they wanted to get the throwbacks to gate in the originals. Fans Love an Underdog throwback.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, I'll drop my belt to raise my superstar value, and you're going to play a card that says, I'm going to hurt you for playing a belt. Well, by having masks and capes, they could say, no, your card's blank. We get our belt anyway. We're going to raise our superstar value and our hand size. Go away. And personally, I've never used the second half of that. I've never hidden that card to recur some cards because I would rather have the protection.
I've used it when I just needed a hand refresh. When I'm trying to just, put the game away and, this hand is junk.
I can see it.
All right, I'm just going to create a new one.
I just
By
like
the time I'd want to hide it, the other text is not super relevant because I'm probably already in control of the game. So
True.
if they play a commish on me, I'll just reverse it with my what's up with that and then put 2 back.
There you go. Especially if it's already hiding in the armory, waiting for that sort of scenario. I think Stacy had a good action reversal also.
I do have a question I got from our wonderful 2-time back-to-back champion. Drew wanted to know what could have been done to balance Piper since he was way too overpowered even when first came out until the end of Great American Bash. So between that time period, what could have been done to balance him?
I mean, you're talking
after the fact. I don't know.
After the fact or in this set?
His exact words: "What could have been done to balance Piper since he was way too overpowered even when first came out until the end of Great American Bash?"
Well, I think the start of answering that question is if his obscene power had been recognized and acted on in playtesting, then making that blanking effect have a cost would have been a huge benefit. I was spitballing Overturn 4, something in that range, Overturn 3, discard 2, somewhere in that ballpark would have made him a lot more interactive. After the fact, once he's printed and everybody's like, holy shit, this is a shit brick house, what do we do about it? As unfortunate as it is, that's when you would have to throw in some kind of bullet card, like,
which is what you guys essentially kind of did when in virtual. But you gave him,
and
you gave him something back.
Extremely targeted bullet that was Piper's ability is blank, but that wouldn't have flown in print raw deal because they didn't do those kinds of things except for China, because
or RTC with backstage politics. Yeah,
right.
It would have needed a backstage politics type card. I think if they had said, like, find out how to fight from Finley, for example, that was kind of bullety in itself, but also had some good stuff for dynamics to make it less bullet only. If they had added something in to say also, like when you have lower fortitude, Rowdy Piper's ability is blank, or Piper's pit is blank, or something to that effect.
Alternately, as a way to be a softer silver bullet, if they had printed a card like drawing a blank, where you have something that perks these blank maneuvers, and the card itself said cannot be blanked, so that Piper can't do anything about it, and you can't use the RMS for that because Piper says you don't have it.
That is the other thing that absolutely bugged me, because
I knew you were going to talk about that. It was just
the RMS. I'm surprised I didn't say this already. They created the RMS to say this card cannot be messed with, and then they created a superstar who could mess with it. It was like, why are you doing that? Don't. It just creates this weird back and forth issue. Like people say, why do you have cannot be responded in virtual? Well, we started with cannot be reversed, and that was a thing. And then there was an extremely limited, very situational reversal that could hit it in not according to the fine print.
Right.
But it was difficult to execute. Then we got Sidewalk Slam, which said, oh, you can just stop any card that can't be reversed. Well, then we had to have can only be reversed by, but then we got a reversal for that. And by continuously trying to make this,
right, it's an
this
arms
will
race
work.
that nobody can really win.
Yeah.
Until we just sit down and say, all right, no, this is it. This is going off, period.
Yeah. And from a design capability, that's one of the things that Piper ruined in the game was the ability to say, this card is safe no matter what else is out there. Mm-hmm. And Piper came along and said, well, no, it's not. And that was one of the first things we wanted to look at in virtual design was, okay, how do we bring down the top guys? And one of the things we went right after is we blank Piper's ability.
Well we soft blank Piper's ability because a certain person was like, hey, you can't do that to Piper. And we're like, all right, fine. We'll give him something inconsequential.
It's not like we took him out back and shot him. I mean, he's still very playable.
No, we only stabbed him.
Oh,
yeah, stabbed him a couple times. Took away his rocket launcher.
Poor guy.
Gave it to Jim Cornette.
Wow.
Nice.
Nice.
Well played, sir.
Other question was, and what could have been more interesting ability for Teddy instead of being a red wall with a double-digit hand size?
Ooh, that's a tough one.
That's a bit of a loaded question as stated, but
I mean, yeah, but it is what it is.
Well,
you got
like
any ideas for
the lower arsenal size helps because if you had 60 cards and you go fetch whatever you want, I don't know. My experience with Piper was always like, "Ooh, I'll pack this. Oh, I'm over 50. Okay, hold on. I got to trim some of this." So
he said Piper, but he meant Teddy Long.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I was thinking too. He's still in the Piper mode. I get it.
He haunts me to this day. With Teddy, I'd end up going over and having to cut back some of those extra reversals, which it'd be great to have this, but no. So you have a card you don't want to focus on like Armageddon that could hit a bunch of different things. So if you're interested in stopping power, you'd pack something like that versus something that might be a more damaging reversal. Sure, you could have a Spinebuster too, but hey, this card does a lot of damage if it hits this one specific target, and I can go fetch it if I need it. And if not, I can just put it back to the ability. But then you're looking at your arsenal space, which is limited. So for me, I felt he was kind of balanced, but it just really had to be focused on your options.
So if we're just fantasy booking here and I can redesign Teddy Long however I want, when I think of Teddy Long, I think of two things. Saying holla and play a lot, which to me says actions, and let's make it a tag team match. So if I'm redesigning Teddy from the ground up, okay, he gets 2 enforcers because it's a tag team match. We'll say he has to pick one from 2 different cards, or no, 2 from the same card. So that way you're not having whatever and Shane. If you want Shane, you have to have Steph too, and Steph just fucks your whole ability. So 2 enforcers from the same card. And then I would also give him a kind of crime time style ability where when you play a maneuver, you can also play an action with it because Teddy's up on the stage hollering at you. And if both are successful, they both go through. If one is reversed, it still goes through unless the other one's also reversed.
And just have that instead of the reversal fetching ability?
Correct.
Okay.
Interesting.
I wouldn't hate that.
Something to play
That would
with
also
there.
give him room to have slightly stronger arsenal cards, but it also means that all his arsenal actions can become riders with his maneuvers and therefore get more powerful by default.
Interesting. I like that. Well, those are the only questions we got asked like that about this release. We had comments. Scott had mentioned that the only superstars he wanted to play the set ended up on the cut the last minute. Someone then Simon asked him who was it, and he mentioned Hassan and the Bashams, and they're like, well, duh, Bashams became Eminem and Hassan became Snitsky, so you got to play them.
Yeah, but
more
it's
of a
different.
Yeah, it's different. Yeah. I know.
I mean, straight up,
I
I
can't
would
blame
have
them for
rather.
cutting Hassan.
Yeah, especially after the controversy that happened when Vince just didn't back down and all the backlash that followed, and they basically whitewashed the character.
Yep.
Yeah.
Brief rant here. That was so poorly handled by the WWE. I mean, if I had the power, I would have said, first off, cut that segment that happened right after a terrorist bombing.
Sure.
Yes.
Bad idea. Just cut it out and show some, show some other parts of the show. Just
put a commercial in there. Just
Yeah.
make the show a minute shorter. Put a commercial in there.
Yeah, do a backstage interview, something. Cut that out and put different content in there. You can do it. Secondly, if you really are worried about the character, have the guy come out after his Undertaker match and say, because the guy was not actually of Arab descent. He was
he's Italian.
Mark
Capani.
Capani, thank you.
And he's also a very nice guy. I met him with Davari at Legends of the Ring in Jersey. That's why I got the backstage signature card signed by both of them.
Nice. But just have him come out and say, you know what? I fooled you people. You people are such suckers. I come out here with my Arab dress and you immediately hate on me. You people are so stupid. That's not even my name. My name's Mark Capani.
Exactly.
They could have immediately repackaged him and turned all that heel heat in just a different direction. And then they hate the man rather than what he represents.
Horrible signatures, but there they are. I mean, that's
Hey, nice.
Nice.
So I was glad we actually found enough pictures to put us on in the game later, not to pat my own back too much, but he really was, besides all the cheap heat, it really was well done to not just be evil foreigner. We're not just looking at, he's the evil Arab and you hate him because America.
Right, he's not the Iron Sheik.
Yeah, or any of those. You hate him because he's Russian and he's the bad guy and he cheats. No, he presented a more well-rounded character, and it was sad to see him wasted so much. So I get the idea of if you put them in front of me, here's the same ability. Would you rather play Muhammad Hassan or Snitsky? I'll take Hassan every day of the week.
I think everybody would take Hassan instead of Snitsky with the same ability.
I'll disagree with him on the Bastions, though, because I'm sorry. Molina versus Shaniqua, Molina wins.
Yeah.
Flawless victory.
Flawless victory.
Fatality, even.
Yeah.
Shaniqua don't live here no more.
Brutality. Yeah. Well, that's pretty much going to wrap up Unforgiven here, guys. So that was a good wrap up on this one. I'm trying to get a little more interactive, like showing cards now, because now I know how to share a screen. So.
Yeah.
Technology for the win.
Yes. So.
It also made this, if I could, what also made this set release fun, besides some of the odd foil support like Destiny that came out to really boost some superstars, was the prize support that rolled in after this. We had the movie cards through the Survivor Series 3 launch, but after that, we also got some superstars that were considered for this set and didn't end up getting used. We got Bobby Heenan and Junkyard Dog. One obviously did far better than the other. They had originally talked about having Heenan as a booster superstar. His premium rare would be Jimmy, and then he would have some other support cards, something about a humanoid. I cut them because I hadn't seen this before, so I'm definitely going to keep an eye on this for possible future use. But then Junkyard Dog would have gotten, I think he would have had what was a previous version of Cowboy Bob Interferes, which would have been another great card to give to all the legends.
Yeah, except it was Gorilla Monsoon Interferes.
Something like that, yeah. At one point it was Doink Interferes.
I mean, you linked them to me in our Discord chat, so I can just read them from that.
Fair. Later on, when they were talking about having Sergeant Slaughter in this set before he got bumped to the next set, they had it as Doink Interferes. And then in the final version with Piper, it became Cowboy Bob, which was thematic. And then, hey, it also goes for Randy Orton, which gave him 2 cards in this set, essentially.
Yep.
It's a pretty, would you guys say that's a pretty well-balanced set, or outside of being Piper, of course?
Okay, so setting Piper aside, and even with Teddy Long as kind of an outlier on that, yeah, I'd say that Unforgiven was a pretty balanced environment. It was definitely a step up from Armageddon. It's definitely raising the stakes, but we haven't gone banana yet.
Yet.
We're getting there, but...
It was definitely a set you had to buy to keep up. Yeah, there's some that kind of maintain the status quo and just had a little bit more here and there. Vengeance being a good example. You really needed those chain and heat cards to adapt to the new environment. With Unforgiven, you absolutely had to get your German suplexes.
Your restricted use in this areas.
Right. Another good card from this set was Introduce Your Brain to Your Mouth.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Originally, that was also going to say because you're talking out your ass. And they just
I can see where that got
title.
Yeah. I kind of like that. I'm actually going to forever call it that now from now on.
There you go.
I want someone to do an alt art on that one for me with that title.
Hey, that could be a virtual card. No.
Random trivia for you. The kidney punch, it actually started off as a spear throwback.
Wow.
It was like a 5-9 volley 8. Originally, it could only be reversed by 0 damage reversals, but if it was reversed from hand, your opponent got a free irreversible. So it's basically running lariat. So they had that. They had jackhammer throwback, which was like a 6-8, basically promo 3. Look at the top 3, pick one, the other 2 go away. They had a pile driver throwback at one point and a falling fist, and those just gradually shifted away to other cards. I think part of the reason was that they really wanted to focus on Afterburn, and by making those throwbacks, they're focusing on non-Afterburn stars in Jerry Lawler and Goldberg. So I said, you know what, let's just make it something that's more forward-looking rather than focusing on the stuff that we were trying to leave behind.
Is there any other like additional cutting room floor type stuff from this release?
That's the main part. They had the Dudley family slated at one point here, and then the Dudleys left. At one point, it just broke down from being a superstar to taking their individual cards and making them support. Mm-hmm. So I'm not sure why that decision was driven, but then eventually the Dudleys all left. So those cards,
of course, because Raw Deal was going to do something about that. So of course, it's the Raw Deal curse.
Oh yeah,
and the
Raw Deal curse is going strong.
Yeah, because right now it's what, Iconics now.
Yup.
Never fails.
I'm almost afraid like the Undisputed Era is going to break up or something. Come on, stop it.
If that Pat McAfee match didn't kill him, nothing can.
Right. They need to just move them to the main roster, and maybe somebody watching this will go, see, he predicted it. But I think they're at the point where they've done everything they can in NXT, so they're ready to all move en masse to Raw or SmackDown, whether they'll be jobbed out and ignored, and they'll appear on the event next to Ricochet.
Sure, why not? But, collect that check along the way.
Sure.
Why not? Well, gentlemen, we're going to have to wrap this one up. This was a very enlightening, as per usual. Well, every one of these things, I end up learning something new about these releases because you guys were so behind the scenes with everything like that. So it's a lot of cool stuff to learn. I mean, obviously, knowing that certain superstars were changed to something else has been kind of common knowledge for a long time for a lot of people as it is, because the sell sheet says one thing and then we find out, what happened, But, learning some cool little interesting things behind and, how the development for each superstar came about is kind of cool. And that's why we do these things.
Mm-hmm. At the time, we had the Ask Baron column where he would give some information. Yeah, we were talking about Dudley family. You're right. But, for X and Y, we're going to do this instead, or now it's going to be this because of WWE. But if you weren't around in that time to get that information as it was happening, good luck digging through Internet archives, or you can come on here and find out all this random trivia.
Absolutely. That's the whole point. One is to kind of cover this because there's an influx of a lot of new players coming in right now. There's some even old school guys coming in who maybe didn't play since Mania.
Right. They fell off. And they're coming back to see what all the hubbub is about.
Yeah. So, virtual is a thing obviously for them that's getting them back, and the nostalgia of playing the game. So obviously with the pandemic going on right now, no one's got anything else to do. It's like, hey, I want to go back to playing my games. Like, I think that's kind of dying down a little bit. I've noticed the sales for VelaCards kind of tapering off to what they were in April, May, and June. So starting around July and August, things started coming back down to normal, like a normal level. So either they all got what they wanted, or it's just kind of, as things are starting to open up again, people going back to their regular lives almost. But it's part of doing this whole thing is to kind of give knowledge to people who are getting back into the game or who've never played the game before. Which is surprising that there's a lot of people going, holy shit, there's a wrestling card game? Really?
There were 2 wrestling card games. Just one of them's not as good as the other one.
Correct.
I actually kind of feel bad for somebody who comes into this starting from scratch. Like, if you're a previous player and you want to jump in and say, I stopped playing in Mania, or I stopped playing in Divas, I stopped playing in Unforgiven. Okay, you can kind of jump in and at least get a sense of the classic environment. But if you're coming from brand new, there's a wrestling card game. I used to play CCGs. Let me check this out. Wow, you have 20 years worth of game to try to jump into.
To be fair, I think that's the situation that Revolution was designed for.
And exactly what I would probably recommend someone to go to kind of get a feel of the mechanics and how it kind of generally runs. Because Revolution with a smaller card pool, less text, it's just it's a fun, quick environment, I think.
Yeah,
And then
Cortex
from
isn't.
there, they can transition off to Classic if they want to take that
Sure.
approach, or they can just keep playing Revolution.
Yep. You've got five sets to play with now.
Yeah.
It's fun stuff. So, all right, guys. Well, I appreciate your time as always.
It's my pleasure being here.
Any particular release you guys want to go over next?
Let's see,
I
we've
picked
gone
the last couple. Go ahead.
big four of Afterburn. We could probably do Royal Rumble, but it's kind of a small set, so I might end up talking about a lot of the stuff around it as well.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm okay with Royal Rumble. I mean, we've done Great American Bash, we've done No Way Out, and we've done Unforgiven now.
We could probably also discuss some of the changes from Survivor Series 3, kind of do like a twofer there.
You could do that. Do SS3 and Royal Rumble.
Sure.
I'm in.
Sure. Yeah, let's do that next.
Sounds good.
And then one of these days, we'll just thinking we'll probably tackle all 3 Revolution sets in one shot.
That seems fair.
Because that'd be a nice one, because I'm a big fan of Revolution 3 especially.
Yeah.
You may have mentioned.
Especially Revolution 1. There isn't a ton to talk about besides just billboarding Revolution as a whole.
Yep. I enjoy those. I can't talk about it enough. Although I will say the only thing that getting me interested in playing Raw Deal of any kind again was the last time we played the Cube at the Wrestling Guy store.
That was pretty fun.
Limited formats have always been something that Raw Deal has struggled with, and I think that the Cube is a good way to get around that.
It was fun. I hadn't played in a couple of years as it was, and then I think Drew brought the Cube. I think Drew.
Yeah, that sounds right.
And it was a lot of fun. So I'm like, I can get into this. This is kind of cool. It kind of levels the playing field a little bit, you know. So I enjoyed it.
There was some surprising combos that I saw out of that. Like I took Kurt Angle, and I was quite shocked to find a Reap the Rewards. It's like, oh, it's game on now, pal.
It's good shit, pal.
Yep. All right, guys. Well, it's a pleasure again, and we'll talk again soon. I'll let you guys kind of figure out what works best for you guys schedule-wise.
Sounds good.
I'm sure a weekend, same time, same bat channel kind of thing works for you guys.
Something around here, yeah.
But I think we're good.
All righty. Until next time.
Until next time, guys. Out of here.